Hello, welcome to MOST Balkan Focus. My name is Robert Soko, and I will tell you some stories and anecdotes from, almost 30 years Balkan beats, show business, event management, and many other fairy tales. I was born in 1970 in Bosnia, in Zenica, a middle-sized industrial town located amongst many beautiful Bosnian mountains. And at the age of 19, I left the country due to many reasons, not because of the war. Left for the Netherlands, spent a year in the Netherlands, and more or less by coincidence, landed in Berlin, which I didn't like in the beginning. I landed in East Berlin. It was too drab for me. But with the time, I started loving this city. And ever since, which is now more than 33 years, I live in Berlin. I was making different jobs. I was a cab driver, 7 years long. This is how I learned a lot about people and about this beautiful city. I worked also on television. But my hobby, which was collecting music, cassettes and vinyls, has become my main occupation in the last almost 20 years. I started DJing for beer and 50 Deutschmark back then in a small Kreuzberg bar for a little group of Bosnian refugees. That was the instigating moment for what later has become a sort of a Balkan Beats career. Robert Soko DJ set, something I'm selling now for years. I allow myself to believe that with the refugees, with the urban sort of population from the former Yugoslavia, coming to Berlin because of the war, a new scene has been born. I mean, before the war there were around 30,000 Yugos in Berlin, so-called Gastarbeiter. But these people were somehow sort of a mini cosmos, like a little universe unto itself. And what I'm really happy and proud about is that we managed to mingle, to mix up with the locals, in that case Berliners, Kreuzbergers, where we would start playing our rock music and would find us amongst or in the middle of Berlin nightlife, something very unusual. It didn't happen before, in my opinion. And this is, I think, how it all started. Playing every now and then, recycling old public holidays, socialist public holidays, just for sake of fun and for love of music, like a nostalgia and irony somehow, creating something new. Ever more people started coming to our events and making it into an event, basically. And what I did as a DJ, not only playing the Yugoslav rock hits, I dared to drop into this atmosphere some gypsy music, some trumpets. Quite an unusual endeavor at that time. But what happened is, and what I saw, and what was fascinating to me, is that people went crazy. And this is the momentum where I realized, oh, we have something here, but we don't know really what is this, but there is a little beast lurking. And with the time, I would drop ever more of these tracks. I mean, we have to understand, it was in the 90s, let's say 93, 4, 5, etc. We didn't have so much of these songs. Goran Bregovic had produced some tracks, Emir Kusturica, Fanfare Čakarlija came slowly up. But we saw that something fascinating is really a bit being put on the cultural landscape of Europe and the world, I would say. And this is something I'm really happy for and proud of, to be a part or to be one of those people who pushed this wave, so to speak, to roll, which then later took a bigger size, grew in dimensions, and has become quite popular worldwide. I mean, certainly I would bring some music. I mean, we have to understand at that time CDs were the main sound carrier, vinyls and cassettes. Internet wasn't really a source of music back in time. We would bring some stuff from former Yugoslavia, and certainly one of the first labels dealing with that kind of music was Piranha Music from Berlin, supplying us to some extent with music from Fanfare, for instance, which was a big discovery for me. Later, Magnifico came in and many other musicians. So speaking of this, yeah, it was like somehow it was not that easy to get the music. And therefore, the role of a curator, of a DJ, was more important in my eyes, because you had to make sure that you get the right stuff and in good quality, that you can create an atmosphere with this. What I always love to say is that we Yugoslavs and the whole scene profited a little bit from the bad events in our countries, in former Yugoslavia. I'm talking about war. And it has, in my opinion, had an yo-yo effect, you know, in people in the West would hear of problems in Yugoslavia almost on a daily basis. And then all of a sudden, you have something very sexy coming up, something, how to say, lively, positive, flamboyant, you know what I mean? And I think exactly in this position is where we profited out of this potential of people knowing about us, Yugos, Balkan, and then on the other side having this wild, very intense parties filled with life and pleasure. And I think this was, well, also a springboard for the success of those kind of music and events, and many bands, etc., later on joining the movement. Somehow with the 0 years, with the year 2000, I moved my event to a mud club in Berlin, Mitte. And until that point, I didn't invite bands to play within my events, because I didn't have the means, and I didn't know how, to be honest. I mean, because event management is also it's a number of skills you have to bring up and put together and make it happen. There is a risk of being a failure, nobody being happy about what you choose to do, etc. It's always a little bit risky. It's a walk on a tightrope, so to speak. From the year 2000, I started producing my Balkan Beats events in a small club, capacity 300 people, mud club, and we had a stage. And I also used to collaborate with Balkan Black Box Festival, and this is where I got my first wings, so to speak, in event management. I dared to knock on the door of Rambo Amadeus, sending him an email and asking, look, I'm Robert Soko, I would love to invite you to perform in my event. And then he said yes, and I remember I was like, wow, I spoke to Rambo Amadeus, I just can't believe. I was somehow a little bit dazed for 2 days, proud of myself. This is how then I started slowly, little by little, talking to musicians and artists and their managements on one hand, or on one side, and on the other side, preparing the club owners, promotion, etc., all these aspects of event management which were important. Learning how to promote an event. This is, in my opinion, one of the most important things, besides being the curator and being someone who channelizes his good taste, or at least what he believes is a good taste, and people should hear/see and enjoy. Yeah, what was it? It wasn't development, but I would say within 2-3 years, I got my know-how and the self-confidence, which is one of the most important, how to say, features of event management. You have to be self-confident. You have to dare, you know. You have to dare to do it. You have to believe what you do and take the risk and push for it. In my case, most of the events were somehow successful. I organized, I think, around 120 concerts, live concerts, since 2000. Then you learn with the time how to speak to people. You have to be, you know, self-confident, polite, and to some extent also a little bit calculus, and know how to make your business, how to make your math through this. And the other side, you have to somehow have a good feeling for your crowd, for the following. What would they want to see? What I did is I was trying always to bring musicians whose music I would be playing in my DJ sets. So I was basically trying to transplant. I played as a DJ, but I also would loved to bring the musicians personally in the real format and put them on stage and have people enjoy it. And that was quite good, quite good. I have to say, always after such events, you feel quite sucked out and tired, because it's you are in the center of this, and people are people. If everything goes well, everyone is tapping you on the shoulder saying yes, bravo. But if not everything goes well, then everyone blames you, musicians, but also the crowd, but also the club owner. It's a little bit of a gamble always, Mostly it was good, but you never know. Sometimes, sometimes it just doesn't work well, and this is the part of the game as well. First of all, is somehow your posture towards the musician. One should be polite, yet also a little bit distant always, because getting too close to musicians or artists can be a tricky thing, because you never know how is it going to go. This is something I've learned throughout all these years, because in the beginning I was all too enthusiastic and wanted to become a friend with musicians, which is a nice concept indeed. Yet when you do event management, you have to keep in mind it's always a business in the end, and you are in charge. Long story short, for 20 years, ever since I produced events, I worked on a base of 60-40. 60% for the artist, 40% for me, after all the productional expenses have been deducted, which means the rent, which means the accommodation, the catering, GEMA, promotion. There is a whole list of things you have to keep in mind. But I think 40-60 or 60-40 is a very well-balanced deal, because by doing so, first, you don't take the complete risk, because you don't want to fail. You don't want to fail financially, and you don't want to stop doing it because a couple of times you produced very financially negative events, and you stop it. So you have to think, I have to protect the dynamic of my future by making it smartly. 40-60, or percentage as we call it. It can be also different. It depends who is it, 70-30 or 50-50. But it protects you from financial disaster, because everyone takes responsibility, financial responsibility. And also, what is nice, that then also the musicians who normally have also a huge circle of friends and supporters and friends of friends would probably push promotion for this event to be more known. And this is what we all profit from. You want the whole group of people somehow to co-promote the event. Very important thing. Otherwise, if you give a guarantee, which is also doable if you have the budget, you are a little bit under pressure, because everything's fine when it goes well. When it goes well, everyone loves you. You are the best. You are the hero, right? You are the god. You know how to make it. But if it doesn't, forget about him. And that's why this walk on the tightrope has to be balanced, and the percentage is a tool, a feature which helps you do it properly. And then, of course, you have to know how to deal with promotion. Promotion is another chapter. I mean, back in time, in the notice, so to speak, in the 0 years, it was important to make posters. It was more analog. Nowadays, everything goes to social media above all, and in the first line. So you have to make sure that you know how to handle Meta and Facebook and Instagram and Google Ads. That's really significant. Websites, etc. It's another chapter, so to speak. I don't know. I couldn't necessarily now tell you, definitely try to be a musician. It's worth trying. I tried. It's nice to perform in front of people and get paid and have fun. But, it's also linked to many other difficulties. My main motto was always keep the room going. I've been told in the beginning of 2000 by this guy from New York, Stephen Mass, who was running Mud Club in New York, legendary club. Who cares? Keep the room going. So this was one of my mottos in terms when it comes to choose the program, choose the music I'm playing as a DJ. Keep the room going. I loved it, and I still use it. What happened to me is that when Corona hit, I got some money from the state, from the German state, and I bought a piano, which I always wanted to play, but never dared. I always thought I'm a Bosnian peasant. I'm not supposed to play piano. I'm supposed to work on a Baustelle. Yet I bought one, and in the meantime, I can really label myself being a musician by knowing a lot about musical theory and being able to play piano, play guitar, play ukulele. This is an enrichment for my life I just couldn't believe. You know, people do yoga, people do alcohol, people do cocaine, people do things to find the inner peace, and music itself as such, me performing it is really a medicine. I came around the world. I really was playing from Japan to Mexico to Brazil to South Africa and God knows where. Beautiful. I'm happy for this and grateful. If there is a God, if there is a higher energy, I don't know. I'm grateful for what happened. But one has to really take care and be attentive when it comes to abuse of substances and alcoholism, etc. I would ask young impending event managers kindly to really think about this when you open your next bottle of beer. What happened to me is I was a DJ and then I have become event manager. And these are two related yet different dynamics, right? It's not the same. Somehow they come together under one roof at some point, but you need different forces to make it. When I speak about being a DJ, I allow myself to say the DJ is an artist. Why? Because the DJ with his collection, with his selection and eclectic approach to his music is creating an atmosphere which is unique at that very moment. Like a painter is painting a picture or whatever. And in my case, being a DJ, which was, I now can say it out loud, successful for a period of time, in my case, it was the pain which was the driving force behind it. I found myself in the year 2006 in a horrible situation dealing with death of my father, horrible separation from a very beloved woman, and a couple of other things. I lost everything within 3 months, like a whole world of mine imploded. But then, strangely, music came to me saying, come on, my boy, get up, we're going to make something out of it. And that was my DJ career. And then I started somehow, having money, being successful, being sought for, traveling around the world, literally, globally. And what I sold, now in retrospective, what I sold to people is a certain amount of pain I was carrying in me, celebrating my pain in front of a group of people and not really caring about what someone think, how I behave or misbehave. Only later I would understand, I hope I'm right, that this was an energy, a dynamic which was so necessary to be successful. Here I'm talking about my DJ career. You cannot apply the same technology with event management. As an event management, you should be much more reasonable and, much more down to earth and know what you're doing. At some point, I've managed to unite these two skills. On one hand, being an event manager, on the other hand, being an artist/DJ. And it wasn't always easy to deal with this dichotomy, so to speak, of, you are in charge, but at the same time you have to, play and perform. Yet it's doable, but it was my way. In the meantime, I prefer being more event manager because it's more like going to backstage, going to the back of the story. You don't have to perform because, I always had the impression whenever I go on stage, I sell a bit of my soul to the devil. Let me say it poetically. You actually open your heart to the crowd and you give it away. You give some cosmical, neurons or whatever it is in us to the other people. Another beautiful activity happened to me 2 years ago when I met Robert Rigney, an American journalist who lives in Berlin, in Piranha offices. And Mr. Berkowski suggested, like, why don't you guys come together and write a book? You have so many interviews, so many anecdotes and memories. And we were really like, indeed, let's do that. So it took 2 years. Now we are having a book ready for you guys out there to marvel about the masterpiece. It's 300 pages long. It includes around 80 protagonists, 80 people talking to us, and me writing like a few stories about my cab driving, let's say dirty Berlin nightlife and weirdo situations, about my separation, about the old days in former Yugoslavia. I wrote quite a few pages. And Rigni, my partner as well, and then there are other people talking, from Goran Bregovic to Billy Gold from Fate No More, or Eugene Hotsov, Gogol Bordello, Chantal, Boban Markovic, etc., etc. I would say we have really a lot of important people in that wave, right? And Tri Mustafa Tri guy, Ben Mendelssohn, is mentioning MOST in the book. And we are also going to definitely mention it then. There is Balkan Taksim involved in MOST production, guys whom I personally know and worked with. MOST as an institution, as a project, helps. MOST helps. One of the toughest questions is, what now? It's hard to say why, otherwise I would be a magician or God knows what guru if I would know how, but something is telling me, my guts is telling me, in a couple of years, Balkan will regain its power and somehow again find its space in the scene, and then let's see, those who survive will tell us the stories. When I go to former Yugoslavian countries, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, when I hear the radio, it feels like I'm 17. Nothing changed, man. It's like crazy. Like, it's the same hits. Like, wow, how long does it take to play, I don't know, Srebrna Krila, Azra, or all these hits I grew up with. And then you have these new productions, which I don't really understand. It's all weirdly twisted, wannabe Hollywood star sound, big tits, half naked, and wannabe criminal. I don't know, a weird hybrid, which I can't really define and identify with. Dare, try, brace yourself, and make things happen. Learn new things. Very important aspect in life in general. Learning, opening new pages, trying, experimenting, just not, being shy and being frightened by first obstacle. No, just believe in what you think you should or you want to say to the world or leave to the world, and then make it. I know it sounds now old wise man telling you the truth, but what I can say, I remember having a lot of obstacles in my career. And if I wouldn't have had these, with horses, in German we call it Scheuklappen, the blinds. Often you have to put these blinds and just go, follow your path. Follow, make it, and then you will see what happens. And even if you fail, so what? Just keep the room going, as we said. And, you don't necessarily always have to have blinds, but in certain areas of your doing, just, follow your instinct, follow your guts. Make it happen. Don't be afraid. It doesn't matter if people criticize you. This is the most normal thing that you got criticized. The more success you have, the more criticized you will be. No way around it. But this is a good sign. So, keep the room going.